If you feel like you're always injured, you are not alone. Running injuries are so preventable, but there are so many myths out there that are actually making them worse. In this video, we're going to bust the 5 running myths that are ruining your running, and the 2 things that we've probably all said at some stage in our lives that in our experience are the biggest contributing factors to runners getting injured.
As serious runners with limited time to train, we often feel the pressure to make every session count. And as often being A-type personalities, that means that it's got to feel like we did something, feel like we got something out of that workout. And that leads us to often push too hard, to run too hard, to run too fast during sessions. This is your single biggest risk to both injury and plateauing in your performance, because if you're going to run hard every time you run, you don't allow your body to recover. You don't allow yourself to improve, and you slowly get more and more fatigue, which compromises performance. But much more important than that is that it often leads to overuse injuries, which prevent you from getting out and doing the thing that you love, and that is running and getting better. So make sure that you run hard when you're supposed to run hard, but when it's time to run easy, the effort is the key. You must make sure that it is in fact easy, and that will go a long way to making sure you stay injury free, you stay consistent, and you keep improving and setting new personal bests.
The next myth reminds me of when I was a kid building sand castles and digging holes in the sand at the beach. See your running as the digging action. So every training session you do is you digging with your hand a hole in the sand over and over again. Now, doing too much training and not allowing your body to recover is the same as digging those holes repetitively and the walls slowly leaking sand down back into that hole that you're digging and not getting stronger and packing the sides of those walls. The same really applies to your recovery. By taking recovery days and not running every day would be the same as slowly putting a bit of water on the sides of the walls of that hole that you're digging, packing it, compacting it, making it a little bit stronger. Those recovery days are doing the same thing in essence to your body. That is where our adaptation to the training session that we've done, so the running session, strength session, whatever it might be, your body is then adapting and building itself a little bit stronger, thinking, I didn't like what it went through. How can I make my body a bit stronger for the next training session? So the same applies, again, just bring it back, the hole caving in. If you don't pack the sides of your sand hole or your sand castle, even for that matter, little bits of sand leak back into the hole, and before you know it, that entire hole is going to cave in. Again, the same applies to running every day and not taking those recovery sessions. If we're not allowing our body to recover properly and build to get a little bit stronger, we are then risking getting sick and getting injured, and as a whole, everything in our training caves in and we are unable to train potentially for weeks on end, having to then start all over again.
The next myth is so important. It's kind of like having a motor plan for your car. It really sucks to pay for that every month, but if you have a car accident and you don't have that motor plan, or if your car breaks down in somewhere and you don't have that motor plan, that's going to suck even more. And so think about it this way. As you're driving your car, there's wear and tear that happens on your car. And so it gets a little bit older and older and older. And so when you have that motor plan, that is what's going to really save you at the end of the day. And so strength training is like this motor plan. It's not always fun to do. It's not always fun to take part in, but you will really, really benefit from doing it over and over again, just like you would from having the safety of that motor plan. Running is a cyclic sport, so in the same way your car has wear and tear, because running is a cyclic constant compounding action, so you also have this constant wear and tear. And strength training is really your backup to ensure that you are able to remain injury free and improve your running. So if there's something in your car that goes wrong, it probably means that at some point later in that car's life, something else is going to go wrong. Don't get me wrong, I don't know a lot about cars, but I know quite a bit about physiology and human anatomy. The body is a chain, and if something is imbalanced or going wrong at some point in the body, it may refer somewhere else. And so you might not always get an injury where that imbalance is, but you might get an injury at different parts in the body, which is why we want to focus on strength training to ensure that you are really covering the whole musculoskeletal system and protecting yourself and making your body ready for the demands that running asks. Just like you need a motor plan for your car, here at Coach Parry, we believe in strength training. And so we've created a free strength training plan for you to download. You can click on the link on screen now to download it.
The next myth is around equipment, and more importantly, the need for super shoes. We get so focused on the latest technology and the latest shoes that are out there that we actually forget to do the basics right. You can have all the latest technology and the most expensive gear out there looking really good in your training runs, but if you're not doing all the basics, the right type of training at the right times, you are potentially setting yourself up for injury and certainly are going to struggle with improvement. Carbon shoes don't make you run a fast marathon. I'm going to say this with a little bit of an asterisk. We've seen marathon world records broken recently, and yes, there is a component of that definitely comes down to the shoes. However, I can tell you those athletes are still training and making sure they're putting all the right components in place. So again, you are not going to suddenly break PBs in your races just by having carbon shoes if you're not training properly and doing the right kind of work.
All over the internet, they talk about 6 to 7 hours of sleep is what an adult needs. Well, the reality is that it is slightly different for everybody. You need to have at least 4 sleep cycles when you're sleeping to really get the full benefits that you need from sleep to recover properly. Those sleep cycles last about 90 minutes each. They do vary slightly, and you're looking for 3 cycles of non-rapid eye movement or NREM sleep. And those stages are in slightly different depths of sleep. So you go through light, medium, and very deep sleep, and it's increasingly difficult to wake you up as you move through those cycles, and then finally in your deepest sleep, REM sleep, to finish off that 90-minute cycle. And so really what we are looking to do is to have a minimum of 4 90-minute cycles that will allow you to get through all of those cycles so that you really get restorative recovery sleep. Now, there are a few things that you can do to make sure that the quality of that sleep is much better, and this is especially important if you're finding it very difficult to manage your day and your training and still get 7 hours of sleep. So what is key is to make sure that for 30 to 40 minutes before you go to sleep that you get off devices. You want to prevent blue light from penetrating your brain because it creates a situation where your brain thinks that it's daytime, and we never sleep properly and get through our sleep cycles in daytime. So get off tablets, get off cell phones, get off televisions, have a conversation with someone, read a book, read a newspaper, but get off your devices for 30 to 40 minutes before you go to sleep. The second step in making sure that you sleep really well is ensuring that you have a really clean sleeping environment. So what does that mean? It means we want a dark and cool environment to sleep in. And the darkness is the easiest to control. You want to keep devices out of your bedroom. You don't want a television in your bedroom with a red light or a cell phone on your bedside table that's flashing because you've got a message. The darker your room, the quieter your room, and the cooler, the better your quality of sleep is going to be. And the third aspect of getting good sleep is a little bit harder to manage, but you need to try and get into bed a little bit earlier. Research shows that the ideal time to be in bed is before 10 p.m. at night, because that allows us to go through our cycles fully and for us to get full hormonal release, in particular growth hormone and testosterone, to really help you recover while you're sleeping. But the key message from me on this is that whatever time it is that you're accustomed to getting to sleep, or that you manage to get to sleep, taking into account commutes, family time, etc., when in heavy training, try to make that a little bit earlier. 20 minutes is a win. 30 minutes is a win. 1 hour is a huge victory.
I've been on runs before where I'm taking a walk break and I've got a mate drive past me screaming out the window, "Hey, you should be running, not walking." The next myth is walking is a weakness. I can tell you it's not. We like to implement walk breaks here at Coach Parry in most of our training sessions, in particularly the long runs, because it is a really good way in regulating intensity. We often find people saying they struggle to run slow enough, they struggle to get their heart rate down, they're struggling to keep intensities easy. Walking is a really good tool just to bring the heart rate down, reduce a little bit of the eccentric load on your legs, short walk breaks, before you then get back into it feeling a little bit fresher, and more importantly, prolong the intensity of your run later on. Save the legs, save the energy for later into those long runs. Your racing is a really good opportunity to use those walk breaks as well to ensure that you can sustain an effort for longer and have a stronger finish. I mentioned walk breaks in your runs as a way of regulating intensity and allowing you to keep going for longer. But another really good benefit of those walk breaks, as I spoke about lower eccentric load or lowering the eccentric load in a run, it does allow you to reduce your risk of injury and overloading.
I am extremely guilty of this next myth. I have quite an OCD type A personality, and so when there is something in my plan, I have to do it. I have to make sure that I'm turning the blocks of my plan green. I don't like seeing any red in my plan. And so as much as that is a good characteristic at times, it can be a very dangerous characteristic when it comes to getting injured, because pushing through sickness or illness, or pushing through a little bit of a pain that can become an injury, is going to make that even worse. So this becomes dangerous because it can push you towards a state of overreaching. When you are sick or injured, essentially that is your body's way of saying that something isn't performing at an optimal state physiologically. And so we really need to listen to that and take the rest where we can, as opposed to just powering through with our A-type personalities.
The truth is, it's so freaking easy to run faster. And that's why we've created this 4-step process that we've used on over 10,000 runners over the last 3 years to help them run faster.